Andrea Heuston here. I'm the host of the Lead Like a Woman show, where I feature strong, amazing, and brilliant female leaders and how they're changing our world for the better. We have over 40,000 people on social media who are sharing our message of empowering female leaders to empower others. And please keep sharing. Follow the show right now as you listen on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you're so inclined, we would love it if you head on over to Apple and give us a 5-star review. I'm going to put instructions for giving the review in the show notes because I just figured it out myself today with the help of Karen, my guest. So in this episode, we're going to talk about making conflict work for you. But before we get to that, this episode is brought to you by one of my companies. Today, it's Artitudes. Are you a woman who wants to start a business, or do you already own one? Artitudes has a special offer for you. Learn to pitch for funding and for sales with our women-owned package. It includes content and speaker coaching and a pitch or sales presentation so that you can win with confidence. You can find it at artitudes.com/women-owned. That's women with an E because it's collective. The best way to find me is type #LeadLikeAWoman into your search bar. Or as always, I am all over LinkedIn. Today, I have the honor and privilege of introducing my guest. Best-selling author and speaker, Karen Valencic is passionate about revealing the keys to mastering conflict so leaders can fast-track innovation and smooth the turbulence of disruption, thereby increasing momentum. In 1992, she founded Spiral Impact, which imparts a distinct perspective on conflict and performance improvement as she blends physics and martial arts to inspire practical skills for collaboration and influence. Are you intrigued? Because I am. Karen is the best-selling author of Spiral Impact, The Power to Get It Done with Grace, the Black Belt edition. She's also produced the audio program, Strengthen Your Balance and Focus While Driving, and created a handbook called Giving Deliberate Feedback for Leaders. Karen channels her vibrant experience into team and leadership development, professional conferences, coaching sessions, and more, tailored to your individual needs or your organization's specific goals. For 3 decades, Valencic has been a devoted student of Aikido, the Japanese art of reconciliation. Isn't that beautiful? Aikido uses position rather than force to diffuse and protect the opponent's life, as well as your own. Spiral Impact is grounded in those exact same concepts. Karen, welcome to the Lead Like a Woman show.
Hey, I am thrilled to be here with you, Andrea.
This is going to be fun. I love these conversations. So you have had an interesting career. You worked as one of the very first female engineers at Delco Remy division of GM. That was quite the experience, I'm sure, and I'm curious about it. But now you've run Spiral Impact for over 30 years. I want to know what led you down the path of entrepreneurship to start your own thing.
Yeah, well, of course, being an engineer is all about learning and developing, and it's about performance. It's about taking our products and performing. And there's always conflict when you're creating. And
always.
And I certainly was a young woman in a new environment. And I'm not going to say that I had awful conflict, but there were things, conflict doesn't have to be an awful thing. Sometimes it is. But just getting your voice heard can sometimes be a conflict. Getting your ideas considered and really being able to contribute in a way that's meaningful on a team can be real conflict for people. And so I actually did that work, and I wasn't like thinking, I've got to figure out how to deal with conflict. I was doing my own therapy as I was getting older, just trying to figure out my life and everything. And then I was at a dental conference, and I saw the martial art of Aikido in practice as it related to conflict in everyday life.
I'm going to pause this, but you were at a dental conference and you saw Aikido. First of all, which thing is not like the other? But wow.
Well, yes. Well, I was at a dental conference. I was married to a dentist at the time.
Wow.
And we were at this conference, and my teacher, actually, Tom Crum, who I met there, and I was sitting there watching this demonstration that he did. And I have to say, Andrea, it was one of those moments in my life where my world changed, because what I got, how awful I was at relationship and in particular. And the beautiful thing about Aikido, and because with my clients, I can demonstrate, they can watch the movement and can see the difference between power and force, and how you can move and create influence and collaboration in a way that's not so obvious if you're just talking about it. And so I was just sitting there and I was thinking, wow, what I've been doing, because I would vacillate between holding things inside of myself and feeling frustrated,
Right.
or kind of overwhelming people and trying to get my way. It's that fight or flight. And I was in between those things. And really there's the third thing, which is what we call flow, and learning how conflict actually works, because you are going to have conflict. It's a given, and you're not going to exist without it. A lot of people want to avoid it, and as a matter of fact, people may not want to watch or listen to this episode because they're thinking, conflict, I want to avoid it. But the fact is it's inevitable, and we will have it. And the thing is we don't evolve, we don't innovate without conflict. And it's the source of all innovation and all beauty. And I like to think of conflict like water. When it's flowing, it creates beauty, it moves, it flows. And when you try to constrain it, and I was telling you, I have a video that goes through this. It can be like a leaky pipe. It can be like a huge, a leak in the ceiling that falls down. So if you don't let the water flow, it always creates problems. And And so I think of conflict like that, and really understanding what conflict is allows you to work with it rather than against it. And so I encourage people to think about
that flow. It's that flow. Sorry. I'm just really fascinated by that.
Exactly. And that's really what Aikido is when practiced well, is my understanding. So it's a blast, and I've been practicing for over 3 decades, because it's not, there's a lot of nuance to it, and it's all about self-development, which is what conflict is. And so when things come up for me, it's like there's always one thing that's in common with all of my conflicts. And that is that I'm there.
That's funny. That's true. You have to look in the mirror sometimes.
Exactly. But you know what? Let me tell your listeners how I define conflict.
Yes, please.
Different people define it differently. And I also can kind of go back to my engineering, because I almost called the work I do the physics of communication, because it's really about physics. And I think to really understand conflict, you have to understand the difference between force and power.
Oh.
Okay, now I'm going
force and power. I'm repeating a little because,
Yeah, the difference between force and power. And now I will tell you what the difference is on some real basic physics. And you guys will all get this because it's simple. Force is linear. So when you feel pushed, people push back. And so that is what happens with conflict, is force against force.
Force against force. Okay.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of people stay stuck in this, because when we feel pushed, we push back. And I'd invite you and your listeners to think about, make one fist with one of your hands and make a fist with the other hand, and then push together.
Push it together. I'm doing it now, listeners. Push it together.
That tension is conflict. Now, what you've got to learn, how you master conflict, is understanding that, and then recognizing you need a little bit of a push, but then you spiral and you move with it.
Look at that.
Now, power is rotational.
Okay.
So that's where the spiral comes in.
Spiral.
So force is linear, force against force. Spiral, it's rotational. That's what power is.
Wow.
When you talk about lead like a woman, I think that a lot of times women can feel disempowered because of who we are. But I always like to remind people that power, anyone can own power.
Right.
It's something to develop, because there's a lot of people in the world that may not be in positions of power, but they wield a lot of power. And if you worked with teams, oftentimes there's a very informal leader that has power. And and so you don't have to be physically in a position of power or emotionally or any of those things.
Exactly.
It's something that you own for yourself, and you can develop that.
Okay.
And that's what I feel like.
So that's the magic you do. That's the magic you provide.
Exactly. It's really about the power to get it done with grace. Now,
beautiful.
You might think about, and I'm just going to segue here for a second.
Okay.
A lot of times people in positions of power will use force.
Oh, yes, they do. Yeah.
And so I want to just...
You have to do this. You must do this. This is the way it has to be done.
Right. And so I wanted to just distinguish that. But but rotation is how you deal with conflict. And so it's not about going in circles. It's about moving in and with.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That is beautifully said. You've said this before, Karen. I can tell.
Oh, I have. And I demonstrate it too. I mean, that's the beauty of this work, is the fact that when you can see it,
yes,
you feel it.
Yeah. Then you can understand it.
You can understand it and you can start playing with it.
Oh, I love that. Well, I guess, so you started Spiral Impact 30 years ago now, over 30 years. You know, you've had a storied career, I would say then, and things have changed, times have changed, people have changed. But when you started it, instead of what went wrong and the lessons you learned, I want to know what went right.
What went right? Well, I love that question, because what went right is as I had mentioned, I saw this demonstration. And it was like lightning bolts came out of the sky and came in.
I love moments like that.
Yeah. And it said, that. This is your next phase.
Wow.
And
powerful.
And so that was what went right. Now I will say to you, I ended up going through a divorce during this time, which seemed a little bit weird because I'm talking about conflict and I'm getting divorced. But I will say that my kid's dad and I are really good friends. He and his wife we were like a pod in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I know I have their back and they have mine. And so it's not about what those changes are. It's what do you do? What do you really do with it?
Right.
But what worked for me was really my passion and finding really good people to work out with. And also finding people that were willing to engage with me and really explore this work. Now, when we were talking beforehand, one of the other gifts I had are just people that hired me. And I did a lot of work in hospitals back in the day. That's where I really...
Right. We were chatting about that.
And worked with, hospitals that were merging, different cultures coming together. And I really learned how to teach these concepts so that all types of people can grasp it.
Oh, because that's important.
Yeah, it is, because Aikido on the surface is a very, it could be it's very inspirational and exciting, but it's like, but how do you do that in a practical sense?
Right.
So how do you bring that practice to business, to your relationships? And that's the part that the model
magic
that I created.
It's the magic is what it is.
Yeah, it is the magic. And it's like I can have a fantastic intention, but then at the same time it's like, well, what do I do? What do I say? So it's like,
what's next?
How do you build the confidence to be able to do that? And so that's where Spiral Impact, because it's a little bit of a misnomer. I created Spiral Impact in 2005.
Wow. Okay.
But I was developing it since 1992. So I kind of incorporated that into a specific thing and trademarked it in.
Love it.
Yeah, 2005. So
then, you talk about conflict is inevitable. It is inevitable in any atmosphere, family, work, anything at all. But how can we master conflict and use it for good? How can we figure that secret sauce out?
And that gets back to this pushing the hands together. So what the first thing you got to do is recognize when you've got it.
Ooh.
And so a lot of this is creating some self-awareness around what am I doing right now?
Yeah.
And finding that when you feel uncomfortable or anxious or whatever that is for you, sometimes it's a thought you're thinking.
Yeah.
That might be something about self-deprecation. It might be a thought you're thinking about somebody else. They never get this. They're awful. They're mean. Whatever that is.
That's conflict.
Yeah, that's conflict. And then sometimes it's interesting because for me, I find I'll sense conflict as tension in my body before I'm really aware of it. And so I
think that's true with a lot of us.
Yeah. And I think that's where it starts. Now, I've had conversations with a variety of different people, but I think that's where it starts, and it's whether and it doesn't really matter where it starts. What matters is when you're aware of it.
Right.
Becoming more and more sensitive to when that's happening. So that's the first piece, because once you're pushing, then you got to get to the awareness of I'm pushing. That's not getting me anywhere. Stop it.
Yeah.
And then the clearer and the better you get at this, then you start, you rotate. And you know, my model really it's a really 5-point model.
Ooh, will you share those 5 points with us?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
These are 30,000 foot concepts.
Yes.
So just know that there's a lot within these 5 things. But think about, again, the first point is recognize when you've got the conflict. And I should say, you want to be able to create a little conflict too. And actually, William Ury, who was the co-author of Getting to Yes, fantastic book about negotiation. It's a classic.
Yeah, it is a classic. I've read it, as a matter of fact.
Well, he's been in the headlines lately, and he's saying we need more conflict at work. So recognizing that. Now, to counterbalance that, the head of SHRM, which is the Society of HR Management, he's been speaking at a lot of conferences. Jim Link is his name. And his topic is employers have got to get a handle on incivility in the workplace because it's really sabotaging things. So there you have 2 spectrums, right?
You really do.
But the thing is what you got to have is the right kind of conflict. And that's where spiral impact comes in. So we're pushing, which is good, but you can't push too hard or too long because you'll disengage people.
Exactly. Something will break.
So you spiral. And how do you do that? Well, one thing I talk a lot about, and I'm so glad to see this in mainstream more and more, is and actually just imagine there's a square, there's 4 quadrants, and there's a spiral in the middle of that. That's on the front of my book, which you can see over my shoulder if you're watching video. But one of those quadrants is what I call focused energy. And there's a concept in there that is called centering. And that's really, in the martial arts, that's moving from your belly. It's moving from your gut. And that's where your power is down here. And so centering gives you perspective.
It does.
It gives you perspective. It makes you more approachable. It's just a lot of things. And I'm really thrilled to see how emotional intelligence and mindfulness are really becoming more mainstream, because those both
very much so.
Yeah, they fit under that umbrella of centering. And so focused energy and centering in particular, but I also talk about other things in that quadrant. Another quadrant is knowledge. And it's interesting with knowledge, it really comes down to knowledge of yourself, knowledge of other people, knowledge of what you're doing, and knowledge of your team. I mean, it's really understanding all of those dynamics, but you've got to know yourself. And one of the key pieces of that is asking questions. So often when we have conflict, we aren't asking questions, we're making statements.
That's true. That is so true. And they come across as this is the way it's going to be.
Yeah. I know you did that. I was talking to someone the other day that was something, and they said, I know she took it.
Oh,
and I was like, I think you don't go to that conclusion. You don't know. So you don't go there quite yet. So
exactly.
So that's so asking questions and acknowledging too. That's all in that knowledge piece. Then the other quadrant, and I don't like to label these 1, 2, 3, 4 because there's no specific order, but the other one is intention. And there's a lot of different, I talk about a lot of different levels of intention. And really, when you think about focused energy, it gives you the center of the spiral.
Right.
The knowledge, the asking questions gives you the rotation. Oof. And the intention gives you a direction. Otherwise, you're going in circles.
Yeah.
And so often, and just an example, I had a group I was speaking with, and she said, could you help me apply this? And I said, of course. And she said, so I've got an issue with this, I'm in service. I've got an issue with the sales department. And they do stuff, and she was just frustrated with how they were running their part of it, how they were responding to clients. And I said, what is it that you want? And she said, I want them to understand me. Oh. And I said, that's not good enough. Let's go beyond that.
Right.
I mean, of course,
a little deeper,
and that's where you want to get, but that's a conversation. That's not going to get you to move with this issue. So what is it that you, this is a really important question for you and all of your viewers.
Right.
Intention, I define as, what is it that you want that you don't have because of the conflict that is not specific to another person?
Oh. Yeah. There's that piece, not specific to another person.
Right. So it's not like these salespeople are doing this to me. It's, I want to provide and she got to this. She says, I want to provide the best customer service ever for our customers.
Oh, I like that.
Bingo.
That's it. That's it.
With that conversation. And then you can have a productive conversation because everyone can buy into that.
Yep. You're making the conflict work. You're making it work. Yeah.
Right. And so often, I've been called in to work with groups that can't talk to each other anymore because they have these big conflicts. And they'll say, would you work with this group? And it's always like and I'll say, well, what have you done so far? We have tried to hash these issues out, and people just get so frustrated. They leave, they cry, they're disengaged. And so I never start with the issues. The issue, and I like to use the analogy. And actually, I came up with this analogy because I was asked, and I only share this now because this is long enough ago that I know none of these people are in their positions anymore. But I was asked to work with a group in a hospital. It was a sterile processing department and the OR.
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay, so this the people that sterilize the equipment, which is a lot more than just a handful of instruments. It's a big,
obviously, yeah.
And then they had all this conflict, and so I said, well, sure, I'm happy to help them. And they said, okay, so on Good Friday afternoon at 3:00, we've got about a half an hour. Could you help them then?
Half an hour on Good Friday.
Yeah.
At 3:00. No.
Right, at 3:00. But I'm always up for a challenge. So I said, of course. But I was aware of, what could I do in a half hour with about, I don't know, there was probably about 15 people in that room. And what I did is I came in, and of course they lined themselves face to face, which again, face to face is force against force. It's positioning.
It is.
Okay. So that whenever you have people in conflict, and just watch this out on the streets or in the hallway, when people have conflict, they're usually facing each other.
Face to face. It's really interesting.
And if you
it's a power position.
It is. If you just shift a little bit, it lets that energy shift, and you can have a better conversation. So whenever I'm working with a group that has a lot of conflict, I try to move them physically so they're not in that position. But anyway, getting back to this group on Good Friday, I asked the group, I asked the group, have you all rode a bicycle? And of course they looked at me like, of course we have. And then I said, well, have you ever ridden a bicycle up a hill? And again, they said, well, of course. And I said, have you noticed how hard it is to ride a bicycle up a hill when you're looking at your feet?
Oh, you can't.
It's a lot easier when you're looking at the top of the hill. And so I said, what I want to hear from each of you is, what is at the top of your hill? And so we started, actually, it ended up being a year-long project.
Wow.
It was like, again, where is it you're wanting to go? And there was all this commonality of intent around where they're wanting to go.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's very cool. I love that story. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. And the same thing's true with walking upstairs. But anyway, at the moment I was thinking about biking, but that gets into intention, and intention fills everything. Even every email you write, think about what your intent is.
Right. And start with the end in mind. Start with that end. It's like storytelling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
which is something I teach. So yeah, very interesting.
Right. And
I want to ask you, Karen, though. So just because I know we've got a lot to talk about, I want to ask you, you are a sensei. You are a third degree black belt in Aikido. And you use Aikido within your teachings and within your content. And so Aikido's purpose is to join or move with your opponent's energy, which is just what you were talking about, spiraling out, which diminishes resistance and creates momentum.
Right.
So how were you able to pair these things early on? This is fascinating to me.
Well, my first inclination about this, I have to admit, was I read a story probably 45 years ago in a book.
Oh my gosh.
And actually, I don't know if you've ever heard of Ram Dass, but he was a teacher and he wrote a book, How Can I Help? And in that book, there was a story that was about Terry Dobson, or it was by Terry Dobson, who was one of the first Americans that went to Japan to study Aikido. And I read this story and it so took me. I was just like, I want to study Aikido. But at that time, there was no Aikido around here. And at the time, my world wasn't such that I could go to Japan or make some big change at study. But I was fascinated with it. And I'll just tell the story in a nutshell. And I'm not going to do it the service it should have. But the story is about Terry's on a train in Tokyo, and it's just kind of rambling through the suburbs. And it's a drowsy afternoon, and they stop at a stop, and some guy gets on the train, and he's big, he's drunk, and he's angry. And he starts throwing himself around and yelling curses at people. And Terry writes, he says, I had been a student for a number of years, and I'd practiced Aikido 8 hours a day. But in practice, we weren't allowed to start a fight. And Aikido's intent is not to be out street fighting. But he said, I saw this as a situation in which I needed to do something because somebody was going to get hurt.
Right.
Okay? Wow. So imagine yourself in that situation. And then he's sitting there justifying his next move. And of course, in his inner heart, he always wanted to see if Aikido would really work. So he starts taunting this guy so that the guy would make the first move toward him. And it was kind of all set up.
Interesting.
He writes that the guy was just ready to take a swing at him. And then all of a sudden, there was this sound of, hey, what you been drinking? Oh. And it was this little Japanese man sitting there.
Totally. Wow.
And it totally diffused the entire thing.
Wow.
And it's so interesting because it diffused the whole thing, and it ended up the little Japanese man just ignored Terry, but he started having a conversation, and the drunk says, I've been drinking sake, and what is it to you? And the guy says, oh, I love sake. Me and my wife, we take a cup of sake out to the garden every night.
Oh, wow.
And watch our persimmon tree growing. And we even when it rains. And so he starts having this conversation with this guy. And then the guy says, I bet you have a lovely wife too. And then all of a sudden, again, the drunk's demeanor
smart.
changed.
So
and he
smart.
said, no, my wife died.
Oh.
And so anyway, so the beautiful part about that story is, as Terry writes it, and it's a beautiful, he writes it so beautifully. But he said he got off the train at a stop and he sat down and he says, what I had been wanting to do with muscle and strong words was accomplished through kindness.
Kindness.
Yeah. And now
getting it done with grace.
And getting it done with grace. And notice that the little man said, "What's you been drinking?" Asked
I know.
The question. It wasn't, "Don't stop doing this." What's you been drinking?
Exactly, because it's a pause. Wait, what? Okay.
And it's a question.
Beautiful.
The beautiful thing about questions, it makes your mind think. And
it does.
It's a beautiful,
beautiful
thing. Yeah.
Wow. So, well, I have to ask you a couple more questions that we're going to fit in. But it's good. I want to know a little bit about your membership site. You just launched this recently. Videos that take you piece by piece through the spiral impact model, weekly video meetings, and more. So it's called conflictmasterycourse.com. What can people expect when they go there? Okay. So and I think as we all did through the pandemic, and video learning is so powerful. This membership site is multifaceted. For one, I have a course in there that has 23 videos that are on the average 12 minutes a piece. So they're not very nice.
Really
they're
long.
Not. Yeah.
But they take you bit by bit. I'm sorry, bit by
bits. I get it. I get it.
Model. And so I invite you to actually, I'm very practical. That's my engineering thing. And so
it is. Yeah.
You to think about a conflict that you've had or you currently have, and you apply these pieces to it. And so it keeps adding to itself. But I know everyone is so nuanced with what their world is.
It's so true.
And I know once you learn some things, it puts you at a different angle. Then you look at the same content again and you see it differently. So along with that, I have weekly Zooms that will be group coaching. And so that's where I'm just starting this out. So it's weekly Zooms with group coaching, because I know we can all learn from each other. And of course, the nuances of your specific challenge may be harder for you to see than for me to see and other people to see. And so there'll be weekly coaching, and there's also a private, and I say private because I think it's really important to have privacy when you're talking about this concept. So I have a private.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like a Facebook group, only it's private. It's not Facebook. Right. So not anybody can come and join. And I also, with that membership, I provide you with a DISC, which is a personality assessment that is specific to conflict. And I love DISC. It because I
love DISC.
Yeah, and this particular one, it fits so perfectly with spiral impact and what I do. And so I include that with it, and it's all in there. So I'm excited about it. And as we're talking here, I'm just getting it going. And it's been I have to say, it's been a labor of love. And all these videos are me right here in this room. And I bring in different people to model things. And it's one of those things, I have 11 worksheets throughout it that guide you to, again, apply the concepts. You can, if you fill those out and send them to me and debrief them with me, then you can earn your blue belt in conflict mastery. So that's my
fabulous.
Point. Of course, I always love working with people in person because there's so much in person to do with this. And I'll be offering in person seminars as well, where we can actually, I may not bring mats, but we could actually physically do this because there's huge learning there as well.
Wonderful. Well, listeners, you can check that out at conflictmasterycourse.com, and we will put a link to that in the show note. We will also link Karen's book, Spiral Impact Black Belt Edition, Getting It Done with Grace. Yeah. So, Karen, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
I believe that every woman on earth has a superpower. What's yours?
I knew you were going to ask me this, and my superpower is my passion around really helping people master conflict. I love what I do. And honestly, I've
That is a
thought about
superpower.
renaming it, but I think that there is huge freedom. You experience huge freedom when you really understand conflict. And when I say
Absolutely.
mastering doesn't mean you got it perfect. I don't have it perfect every time, but mastery, and this is a quote from really amazing teacher whose name is eluding me right now. Okay, come here.
It's okay.
He wrote the book Mastery, and
Aha.
I stopped thinking about it. But anyway, his quote is, the true master is not perfect, but the true master tries and fails again and again.
Right.
And that's because you realize, okay, I didn't score perfect this time, but I will get up and I will do it again.
Do it again.
And that's what we're about. So
beautiful.
That's
love that.
Yeah.
And the book Mastery is by Robert Greene.
No, that's not it.
That's not it.
No, it's not. Mastery.
Sorry, wow. There's a lot of them then.
Oh gosh, it's really bothering.
It's okay. You can tell us and we'll put it in the show notes. So I'm not worried about it.
Oh, and he's an Aikido teacher.
Okay,
cool. It was published back a long time ago. So it may even be out of print. I don't know.
Out of print. We'll look for it. We'll see what we can find.
I'm really embarrassed that I can't remember his name.
You shouldn't be. We shouldn't be. My God, there's so much information in our heads these days. There's no need for embarrassment.
Oh.
You know what? We've had a fabulous conversation today with Karen Valencic, Aikido sensei and CEO of Spiral Impact. Karen, where can we find you online?
Well, I am very active on LinkedIn as well under Karen Valencic, which is like Valentine, only CIC on the end. And I am also on YouTube.
Awesome.
And, you can also find me on my website. And if you really want to connect with me, check out conflictmastery.com. Conflictmasterycourse.com.
Yep.
And I'll say to you right now, it shows you the first lesson for free, and you can see Aikido in action in that video. And it'll also just share a little bit more about me, because I know committing to join a membership site is a commitment, and I just have a lot there so you can know who I am.
I'm going to check it out myself.
Yeah, check it out.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
Karen,
it's exciting.
Thank you for being here today. This has been a lot of fun and very, very inspirational, I have to say.
Thank you, Andrea. It's been a blast for me as well.
Yay.
Thanks so much.
Of course. And listeners, I want you to remember we all have superpowers. Karen has passion around mastering conflict, and that's an incredible superpower to have. I have superpowers, and listeners, you all have superpowers. Please remember to use them for good. And thank you for listening today to the Lead Like a Woman show, where we are passionate about empowering female leaders to keep empowering others. Now go master that conflict in your life. Use it for good. I'll see you later.